The storm was merciless. The sky was a roiling mass of dark clouds, and fierce winds whipped the waves into towering walls of water. Lightning flashed, illuminating the small yacht, tossed helplessly by the sea's fury. Rain lashed down in sheets, soaking everything in its path. In the middle of this chaos, Mira clung desperately to the yacht's slippery railing. Her hands trembled, not just from the cold, but from fear that gripped her heart like a vice. She could hear voices shouting, but they were drowned out by the roar of the storm. Somewhere close by, she heard a laugh that froze her blood. It was her husband's Mistress. Mira's mind raced back to the moments before this nightmare began. It started with what seemed like an ordinary invitation. Samir, her husband of 7 years, had called her that afternoon. "Let's go out on the yacht tonight, just you and me," he said. His voice was calm, almost sweet. Mira had been hesitant but agreed, hoping it might bring them closer. But the moment she stepped on board, something was wrong. Samir didn't greet her like he usually did. Instead, he avoided her eyes and kept checking his phone. The air was thick with tension. Mira's unease grew when she noticed the woman seated on the deck, a stranger, laughing too loudly, touching Samir's arm like she owned him. Mira's heart pounded. "Who is she?" she asked quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. Samir glanced at her briefly, then turned away. "It's nothing," he said, but the lie in his voice was clear. The woman looked up and smiled directly at Mira, a smile full of arrogance and cruelty. Mira swallowed her shock and pain, telling herself to stay calm. But deep inside, something shattered. As the night darkened, the yacht sailed farther from shore. The waves grew larger, the wind howled louder. The woman moved closer to Samir, whispering into his ear. Mira felt invisible, like a ghost on her own boat. Suddenly the yacht hit a huge wave, tilting sharply. Mira stumbled near the edge of the deck. Before she could steady herself, the Mistress blocked her path. "Step aside," she hissed. Mira's heart stopped. The tension exploded like lightning in the sky. She took a step back, but Samir grabbed her arm, pulling her close. "Don't make a scene," he said coldly. Mira's breath caught. She felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. Then, the yacht lurched again. This time Mira lost her balance. The cold sea rushed up to meet her. She screamed, but the wind stole her voice. Before she hit the water, she felt a firm grip, Samir's hand, pulling her back. Relief flooded her briefly, but it vanished the moment she saw the look in his eyes. It was not love or concern. It was something dark and dangerous. Without warning, Samir's grip tightened painfully. Mira struggled, but he held on. From behind, the Mistress shoved Mira hard. The world spun. She lost her hold on the railing and plunged into the icy ocean. The cold shocked her lungs, and she swallowed water as she sank beneath the waves. Her arms flailed, searching for the surface. She kicked her legs, desperate to break free. Finally, she broke through, gasping for air. The sea was endless and merciless. The yacht was disappearing into the storm, and the laughter she had heard before now seemed distant and cruel. Mira's heart pounded with terror and confusion. How could Samir do this? How could he throw her overboard? But there was no time to think. She needed to survive. The sea was a cruel enemy, dragging her down again and again. The cold bit into her skin, and exhaustion threatened to pull her under. Yet she swam, stroke by stroke, every movement a battle against despair. She remembered a piece of floating debris, a part of the yacht broken off in the storm. With shaking hands, she grabbed it and held on. Hours passed. The storm raged without mercy. Darkness pressed down, and Mira's body grew numb. Her mind wandered to the life she had lost. The happy moments with Samir, now just painful memories. The dreams that had turned to dust. Then a faint light flickered far off in the distance. A sign of hope. Summoning all her remaining strength, she waved, shouting hoarse cries into the night. The light grew closer. A small boat appeared, its captain peering over the edge. Strong hands pulled Mira aboard, wrapping her in warm blankets. She trembled uncontrollably, soaked to the bone and nearly frozen. "You're safe now," the man said gently, but Mira's mind was racing. Who had saved her, and what would happen next? Back on the yacht, the story was very different. Samir sat inside the cabin, his face pale and tense. The mistress stood near him, watching silently. Neither spoke of the night's dark secret, but whispers had already started. People who knew about Samir's double life, rumors of betrayal and danger. Mira's disappearance would not be so easily hidden. As the boat with Mira sped toward safety, her thoughts turned to one question. Who was the man who saved her? A stranger? A rescuer sent by fate? She did not know, but she was determined to find out. Mira's journey had just begun, a fight for truth, justice, and survival in a world that had turned its back on her. The small rescue boat cut through, the waves moving steadily toward the distant shore. Mira lay wrapped in a thick blanket, her body shaking from cold and shock. The man who had pulled her from the sea sat silently nearby, his eyes watching the dark horizon. Mira tried to speak, but found her voice weak and hoarse. After several deep breaths, she finally managed to whisper, "Thank you for saving me." The man nodded slowly. "You're safe now. Just rest." His voice was calm, steady, but there was a strange weight behind it, like he carried his own secrets. Mira studied him carefully. He was tall and strong, with dark hair damp from the rain, and eyes that seemed to hold both kindness and pain. Something about him felt different, almost important. "Who are you?" she asked. The man hesitated. Then he said quietly, "My name is Arjun. I work on the coast, part of the rescue team." Mira nodded slowly. She wanted to ask more, but the waves rocked the boat gently, lulling her toward exhaustion. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the blanket and the steady hum of the engine soothe her. When the boat docked at a small harbor, Arjun helped Mira onto the pier. Nearby, a small ambulance waited with its flashing lights, cutting through the stormy night. Paramedics rushed to her side, wrapping her in dry clothes and checking her vitals. "You're lucky to be alive," one said softly. Mira barely heard. Her mind was spinning with questions, memories and pain. Who had wanted her gone? Why had Samir done this to her? And who was this woman, the mistress, who had laughed as she was thrown into the sea? The ambulance ride was a blur. Mira drifted in and out of sleep, haunted by images of the night, the cold water, the cruel faces on the yacht, the darkness closing in around her. When she woke, she was in a small hospital room. The walls were white and sterile, but the window showed the first light of dawn. A nurse smiled kindly. "You're awake, you're going to be okay." Mira tried to sit up, but pain shot through her side. The nurse helped her gently back down. "Take it easy," she said. "You were in the water for hours. You're very lucky." Mira's thoughts raced. She needed to find out more about Samir, the mistress, and the man who had saved her. Days passed slowly in the hospital. Mira's body healed, but her heart was heavy with questions. Arjun visited her once, standing quietly at the door before speaking. "You don't have to face this alone," he said. Mira looked at him, surprised by the genuine concern in his voice. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Arjun's eyes darkened for a moment. "Because no one deserves to be treated like that. Because I know what it's like to be abandoned." Mira leaned forward. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then spoke softly. "I lost someone I loved to betrayal. I've seen people fall through cracks when no one is watching. I couldn't let that happen to you." His words touched Mira deeply. For the first time since that night, she felt a flicker of hope. As Mira's strength returned, she knew she had to face the truth. She called a trusted friend, Aisha, and told her everything. Aisha listened carefully, then said firmly, "We need to find out who that mistress really is, and what Samir is hiding." Together they began to dig. They searched social media, called friends, and followed every lead. What they found was shocking. The mistress was not just any woman. Her name was Nina, a wealthy socialite with a reputation for using men to climb higher in society. She had met Samir months ago during a business event, and their relationship had quickly turned secret and dangerous. Mira's world shattered again. She never expected to be caught in a web of lies and deceit so deep. One afternoon, Mira sat in her hospital bed, scrolling through messages on her phone when she received an unexpected call. "Mira," the voice said. It was Samir. Her heart stopped. "Why are you calling?" she asked coldly. There was silence on the other end. I'm sorry," he said finally. "It was a mistake. I didn't want it to end like this." Mira felt a surge of anger. "A mistake? You threw me into the sea. You let her push me overboard. I didn't mean to. Save it. I don't want to hear your lies." She ended the call. Meanwhile, Arjun was not just a rescuer. He was more than Mira realized. Behind his quiet eyes lay a complicated past. He was the son of a billionaire, but he had walked away from that life. His reasons were personal and painful. He chose to work on the coast because he wanted to help people in the rawest moments of their lives. When he found Mira, he saw a woman fighting for survival, and something inside him connected. Arjun visited her often. Slowly, trust grew between them. One evening, as the sun set, he told her, "You're stronger than you think. You survived the impossible." Mira looked at him, tears welling. "I don't know if I can ever trust anyone again." "You can trust me," Arjun said softly. But danger was still close. Samir and Nina were not finished with Mira. They spread rumors, trying to destroy her reputation. They whispered lies to friends and family, painting Mira as unstable and jealous. Mira's phone buzzed constantly with threats and hateful messages. She felt alone, but she refused to give up. With Aisha's help and Arjun's protection, Mira started fighting back. They hired a lawyer, collected evidence, and prepared to expose Samir and Nina's lies. One night, as Mira walked home, she sensed someone following her. Heart pounding, she quickened her pace. She turned sharply, and there, standing in the shadows, was a figure she recognized. Nina. "You think you can ruin me?" Nina sneered. "You have no idea who you're messing with." Mira stood her ground. "I'm not afraid of you." Nina laughed coldly and disappeared into the night. The fight for truth had only just begun. Mira knew the road ahead would be hard, but with Arjun by her side, she felt a spark of hope. The days following the confrontation with Nina felt like a war zone for Mira. Her phone buzzed endlessly with messages, some hateful, some pleading for her silence. Rumors spread fast. Friends she had known for years suddenly looked at her with suspicion, as if she were a stranger. Her world, once familiar and safe, now seemed like a battlefield. Despite the chaos, Mira refused to crumble. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for her dignity, her future, and the truth. Arjun was a steady presence. Every morning, without fail, he was there to check on her, listen to her fears, and remind her that she was not alone. His calm strength was a balm for Mira's bruised spirit. One rainy afternoon, they sat together in Mira's small apartment. Arjun poured them both tea, the steam rising between them in the quiet room. "Have you thought about what you want to do next?" he asked gently. Mira stared out the window, watching the drops race down the glass. "I want justice. I want the world to know what Samir and Nina did. But I'm scared. What if no one believes me?" Arjun handed her a thick folder. We've gathered more than enough evidence. Photos, messages, witness statements. We'll take them to the police. This time no one can ignore you. Mira's fingers trembled as she opened the folder. Each piece of paper was a piece of her shattered life, and the key to rebuilding it. The day of the police meeting arrived with a heavy sky. Mira and Arjun walked into the station, the folder clutched tightly in her hand. Detective Sharma greeted them, his face serious but kind. We've been hearing some troubling things about Samir Khan. This could be the break we need. As Mira recounted the night she was thrown overboard, her voice was steady despite the pain. She showed them the evidence, Nina's threatening messages, Samir's suspicious phone calls, and the witnesses who had seen the couple together. Detective Sharma nodded thoughtfully. We'll open a formal investigation. And Mira, thank you for coming forward. It's not easy. Mira left the station with a small flicker of hope. Maybe finally the nightmare would end. But the fight was far from over. Samir and Nina were ruthless. News outlets began picking up the story, some twisting it to fit their own agendas. Tabloids painted Mira as a desperate woman trying to ruin a successful man. Mira's social media exploded with hate comments and threats. One night, as she sat alone, the power suddenly went out. The room was swallowed by darkness. A chill ran down her spine. Suddenly her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Stay quiet or else. Mira's hands shook. She showed the message to Arjun immediately. We have to report this, Arjun said firmly. The threats only strengthened Mira's resolve. She would not be silenced. Meanwhile, Arjun's past began to surface. One evening, Mira found him staring out at the city's skyline, lost in thought. Why did you leave your family? She asked softly. Arjun sighed. My father's empire is built on lies and greed. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to make a difference on my own terms. Mira admired his courage. You're not just a rescuer. You're a fighter. Arjun smiled faintly. And now I'm fighting alongside you. Just when Mira thought she was gaining ground, a new twist shook her world. A trusted friend sent her a photo. Samir and Nina meeting with a well-known lawyer, someone known for silencing victims. Mira's heart sank. They were planning to crush her. Determined, Mira and Arjun prepared for a public statement. The media circus was waiting, hungry for scandal. On the day of the press conference, Mira stood before the crowd, nerves twisting her stomach. She looked at the cameras, the flashing lights, and took a deep breath. I am here to tell the truth, she said, her voice strong. I was betrayed, hurt, and left to die by the people I trusted most, but I am not afraid anymore. Her words echoed across the room, reaching millions, but the darkest moment was yet to come. That night, as Mira returned home, she found her door ajar. Inside, the apartment was ransacked, papers torn, belongings broken. A note lay on the floor, scrawled in angry handwriting, leave now or lose everything. Mira's world shook, but this time she stood firm. With Arjun's help, she contacted the police again. They increased her protection. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation deepened. Slowly, the truth began to unravel. Nina's lies were exposed. Samir's betrayals laid bare. Friends came forward, witnesses spoke out. The public began to see Mira not as a victim, but as a survivor. One afternoon, Mira received a call that changed everything. Mira, the voice said, we have evidence that Samir was behind the attempt on your life. You need to be careful. Mira's breath caught. This was more than a legal battle. It was a fight for her very survival. As the story spread, a mysterious figure entered the scene, a billionaire named Raj Malhotra, known for his philanthropy and love for justice, publicly offered to support Mira. His name carried weight. His help could turn the tide. Mira was hesitant but knew she needed allies. She agreed to meet him. At their first meeting, Raj was calm and reassuring. "Meera," he said, "I believe in your strength, and I want to help you rebuild your life." His presence was a beacon of hope, but as Meera looked into Raj's eyes, she wondered, could she truly trust this new ally? Or was there another twist waiting in the shadows? Meera sat in the elegant office of Raj Malhotra, the billionaire who had come into her life when she needed him most. The room was filled with light streaming through large windows, but despite the brightness, Meera's heart was heavy with doubt. Could she trust Raj? Was he truly there to help, or did he have his own agenda? Raj watched her quietly, sensing her hesitation. "Meera," he said softly, "I understand your fears. Trust is earned, not given. But I want you to know, I'm here because I believe in justice." Meera nodded slowly. She had no choice but to accept his help. The road ahead was dangerous, and Raj's influence could tip the scales in her favor. In the following days, Raj's team worked alongside Meera and Arjun. Lawyers, investigators, and security experts formed a protective shield around her. Police intensified their investigation into Samir and Nina. Evidence piled up: secret bank accounts, threatening messages, and testimonies from people once afraid to speak. For the first time in months, Meera felt Hupshu rising inside her. But the past is never far behind. One evening, as Meera returned home, she saw a shadow lurking near her door. Her heart raced. Before she could react, a figure stepped forward. It was Samir. His face was pale, eyes wild. "Meera," he said, voice trembling, "please. I never wanted to hurt you. Nina forced me. I was trapped." Meera stared, disbelief and anger battling inside her. "Forced? You threw me into the sea," she said, voice cold. "You left me to die." Tears welled in Samir's eyes. "I was scared, but I want to make things right." Meera took a step back, shaking her head. "It's too late." She turned and walked inside, locking the door behind her. That night, Meera sat with Arjun and Raj, talking through everything. "People, like Samir and Nina," Raj said, "they thrive on fear and control. But they're weak when faced with truth." Arjun nodded. "You're stronger than you realize, Meera." Meera smiled faintly, feeling the weight of months lifting. The court case became a public spectacle. Media crowded the courthouse, eager for every detail. Meera faced Samir and Nina across the room, no longer afraid. Her testimony was clear and powerful. She told her story with honesty and courage, revealing the pain and betrayal she had endured. The evidence was undeniable. After days of hearings, the verdict was delivered. Samir was found guilty of attempted murder and emotional abuse. Nina was convicted of conspiracy and harassment. Justice had been served. Life slowly returned to normal for Meera, but she was forever changed. She moved to a new city, far from the memories of the past. With Raj's support, she started a foundation to help survivors of abuse and betrayal, a way to turn her pain into purpose. One sunny morning, Meera stood on a beach, feeling the breeze on her face. Arjun joined her, smiling. "You ready for this?" he asked. Meera nodded. "Yes, it's time to move forward." They walked along the shore, the waves washing away the last traces of the nightmare. In the end, Meera learned a powerful lesson. Even in the darkest moments, the human spirit can fight back and find hope. No matter how deep the betrayal, there is always a chance for redemption and new beginnings. The end.